Hi, my name is Josephine and these are my creatures. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, don't forget to leave a like and a comment and maybe subscribe for more videos in the future. While I prep the doll for customizing, let me tell you a little bit of this year's Valentine's Day collab and what was the theme. Our lovely and wonderful host was Selene from Selene Plasticien, and she had this awesome idea of picking a pastry that represents each of our country or culture and create a doll inspired by that said pastry. We had a great selection of artists from all over the world, and it made this collab extra special. The said doll artists are Enchanterium, Valkitty's World, Mr. Super Customs, K's OOAK Factory, Kyro's Workshop, and Celine Plasticien. Do check out everyone's videos, you can find links to them in the subscription box below. The pastry I chose to represent my country Finland is a traditional laskiaispulla eaten during Laskiais Sunday and Laskiais Tuesday. The pastry is very simple. It's a bun flavored with cardamom and filled with whipped cream and strawberry or raspberry jam, caramel or almond paste. I created a quick digital sketch from photos I liked on my phone to give me some sort of a starting off point. I really liked the doll's original hair color and I didn't have any blonde hair in my stash to reroot her, so I decided to remove only the black hairs and give rest of the hair a really good wash and a comb. I used dish soap to remove the greasy glue residue from her hair. Not that there was much of it, her hair was in a good condition. I put her hair on curlers while it was wet. For doll-sized curlers, I used plastic straws, which I'm never throwing away because they are like gold. I leave the hair to air dry and start working on the face-up. I start out with my first coat of MSC sealant. The mint color of her skin is not working for me, so I will use pastels to change her skin tone. I seal her a second time pretty quickly because I need to build up the pastels. I used layers of purple and red to create this nice dark berry red shade for her lips. I start building up her brown eyeshadow and I also did another layer of the peach pastel on her face and body. I sealed it all again to set the pastels in place. I use a pink and light brown watercolor pencil to sketch her eyes out. This face-up was really fighting me all the way through. First, I didn't like the eyebrows, so I wiped them off and did them again. I also didn't like how the outer corner of her eye was looking, so I changed that too. Once I liked what I had, I sealed her again. I love the delicate hand details that other doll artists do on their dolls, so I thought that I would try and do something similar. I do need some practice, but I like the level of detail this tiny thing adds. Then it was time to add her irises. For some reason I thought pink and brown would look good, but no, I did not like it, so I took it off with Q-tip and some water. I replaced the pink and dark brown with a lighter brown. I thought she could use some more personality in her face, so I added some black first to her lip crease and then later used some white acrylic paint to add to front teeth. To make her even cuter, I needed to have some freckles. By adding the tiniest bit of white pastel under her eyes, I can really change how the whole face looks. I add another coat of sealant to save my work. Tiny flicks from my pencil is just enough to create the delicate bottom lashes. I added a rim around her eye, and at this point I still liked her face, so I sealed it again. Then the eyes just took a weird turn and I really disliked them. I thought that I had made the irises and the pupils too exposed, so I tried raising the waterline higher, but I really did not like how the eyes were looking, so I painted over them with white to start over. I added some more blush to get that flushed look of when you have been out in the cold, because traditionally you would spend time outdoors, skiing, ice skating and playing in the snow during laskiainen. Laskiainen is our version of Mardi Gras. It's the last celebration before you would start your 40-day fasting before Easter. Fasting before Easter is not commonly done anymore in Finland, so nowadays laskiainen is all about eating good and tasty foods and spending time outdoors doing winter sports. And the best feeling ever is coming in from spending time outdoors in the cold and drinking some hot cocoa or coffee and eating one of these buns. Adding her heart-shaped catch lights that I thought would be quite appropriate on a Valentine's Day doll. Her lips get a coat of matte varnish just to give them a slightly different finish to her super matte MSC covered skin. I reveal her from her mummy wrap, and I also take out her hair colors. After some brushing, I tied the hair into 2 half ponytails and covered the elastic with some ribbon. For this doll, I really wanted to see how many layers of clothing I could make for her, so I decided to start with the underwear and work my way up. The bra is glued on, but I have no intention of ever taking it off, so I think it's justified to use glue here. I also added some rings and a bracelet. She also got a pair of earrings that had a tiny heart decorating them. She needs to be bundled up, so I started with the most time-consuming part, which is the knitting. I first made this stripy scarf for her just as a test piece, and then moved on to something a little bit more challenging, her beanie. I first measured her head, then I created enough loops to fill the length. I think I did 48 loops and her head measured 16 centimeters. Then I split the loops evenly across 4 knitting needles. Then I go around and around knitting until I have enough to cover her head. Then we need to make the front edge. back edge and the ear flaps on either side. The back edge needs to be wider than the front, so I move 2 loops from each of the ear flap sides. Then I finish off the front edge because that needs to be the shortest. Then I continue knitting the ear flap side, the back side, and the other ear flap. At the beginning of the next row, I want the ear flaps to start narrowing into a point, so I connect 2 loops at the beginning and at the end. I knit the back side normally and start to narrow the other ear flap too. And the next time I come around to the back side, I finish that off because I don't need it to be as long as the ear flap. Now all we have left to do is to finish the ear flaps how you like. Mine ended up quite pointy and long, but I like how whimsical and quirky looking they ended up being. To turn this weird thing we just made into a hat, we need to close off the top. I used the extra yarn left over from the starting to sew up the top seam. I also added these felt pom-poms to each of the corners, and I think it looks super cute. I added an extra piece of yarn at the tip of the ear flaps to be able to braid the ends. Let's take a small break and open up my first ever holo taco order. I was super excited to finally try Christine's nail polishes. I got Matte Taco, Duct Tape Grey, Chameleon Coat, Aurora Unicorn Skin, and Lemon Spritzer. The arrival could not have been at a better time, because my nails do need to be fixed. Now that my nails are fixed, let's go back to work. Because I wanted to see how many clothing items I can make for a single doll, I decided to go with pre-made patterns instead of making my own. From Moonlight Jewel's Sewing Book Volume 1, I will be making the leggings, and this adorable Lolita coat that I have been wanting to make for so long. Another pattern that I have been really wanting to try out is this Steampunk Lolita skirt and blouse pattern from Delightful. I ended up modifying the blouse pattern a little bit. I turned the collar from a pointy one to a rounded one. I shortened the blouse a bit and took out the Velcro closure at the back and added a tiny bit of extra at the center front seam so that I can add buttons and buttonholes later on. The sleeves also get a puffier shape that's going to be gathered down. Here is all the patterns transferred and cut out. This is what I'm thinking for the fabrics for each one. I didn't have a clear vision what I wanted for the skirt, so I only ended up using the floral fabric for the yoke and lining. I turned the pattern for the leggings into pantyhose. I sewed them up according to the instructions. It was interesting working side by side with different patterns. I like Elisa's pictured instructions more, and I think her patterns are really well marked and easier to read, so to speak. But on the Catherine's patterns, you can really tell that she took the time to make multiple test garments to really hone in on the fit, and they fit like a glove. Catherine's patterns are more simple and there is only 2 pages, unlike Elisa's is a whole book. But having pictured instructions means you have to have more pages. Elisa's patterns are more expensive, but you do get a whole pattern book with multiple garments to choose from. On the other hand, with Delightful, you can cherry pick and only buy the patterns you really like. I think you would be very happy with either of these patterns, or just get them all. I really like all the ones I have purchased so far. I liked the knitting so much that I also made this tiny vest for her. One of the shoulders closes with a button so that I can get the vest on and off. And I could never wear just a blouse under my winter coat. It would not be warm enough. Because I added the sweater vest, I need to make the waist of the skirt larger. I decided to add 2 additional panels at the sides to accommodate for the extra thickness. I start the assembly from the yoke piece. Like I said, I was unsure of the fabric for the skirt. Then I had an epiphany. Maybe I could use some markers to create my own pattern. I mark where my pattern pieces need to go and use the alcohol ink marker and a ruler to make, is this called gingham? Or is it tartan? I'm not quite sure. Either way, I ran out of ink and I had to do the thinner lines with a darker brown marker. This was not ideal, but I really wanted to get this done and I only had this water-soluble marker at hand. I just need to be really careful not to get the skirt wet. I treat the fabric before cutting with matte medium to prevent it from fraying. I hem all the pieces using glue. I sew the side front, side and side back seams. Then it's time to add the yoke. I fold the yoke over and press it flat. I sew up the back seam and finish off the yoke's sides with a ladder stitch. For this doll, I was also super inspired by Lolita fashion. So there needs to be an abundance of trims, bows and decorations, which is kind of unlike me. For the closure, I decided to skip Velcro or snaps and do a belt. I had this tiny belt buckle and some ribbon added to it will make a nice belt. It's fully functional and I also added some belt loops to help it stay in place. The underside is looking very empty, so let's add a petticoat. I cut 2 lengths of tulle and decorate the bottom edge with some stacked lace. Then I gather the top edge and sew up the back seam. I love the snowflake motif and the white lace peeking under the skirt. Reminds me of the whipped cream filling. To make the dress lay the way I want, I added a piece of wire to the underside. On to the coat! I cut out all the pieces in this faux suede fabric. The lining gets cut out of this floral fabric. I sew up the coat according to the instructions in Elisa's sewing book. I did make the patterns a tiny bit larger to accommodate all the layers underneath. I also had an inspector monitoring my work. I think he approves. I embellish the pieces some more with tiny beads. These remind me of the granulated sugar on top of the bun. Then it's time to gather and sew up the waist seam. It's coming together. I sew the waist seam on the lining and attach it to the coat at the edges with a ladder stick. I use glue to attach the lace trim at the edge of the coat. The pattern does come with a bow, but I decided to leave that out. To really seal the idea of going outdoors and playing in the snow, I made these mittens. She can't actually wear them, but I think it's adorable little detail. To make sure she doesn't lose them, they attach to her wrists with some loops. I added some larger beads to act as buttons and elastic loops that cross over to help keep the coat closed. I bought this headband from a sale for a couple of euros because I liked the color. I take the scissors to town disassembling it. I cut 2 squares from each of the fabrics, so 4 in total. I hem the furrier pieces using thread and needle because I need them to remain stretchy. I make inner soles out of craft foam and fix them to the doll's feet with some tape. I stretch and glue on the shoe uppers. I close the back seams with some elastic thread. The boots are not going to have any closures, so they need to stretch enough to fit over the doll's foot. I attach the pieces to each other. To decorate the boots and help them stay on, I made this bow out of ribbon. It also stretches so that I can just slide it on. To make the soles, I used Elisa's high heel shoe base and printed it out with our filament printer. The first print failed, which was annoying because I was running out of time, but in the end ended up working out because her feet with the stockings and the shoe upper on are a lot larger, so I had to scale up the print 25% to make it fit. I didn't realize to take some of the height off the bases, so they ended up super tall too. But I think Lolitas are prone to choose fashion over practicality. I added some cute bottom details to the boots and painted them brown before I attached them with glue. Her beanie was looking quite empty, so I added a snowflake decoration as well as some more beads in white and pink. And now she is all done. I love how she turned out, and I think she embodies the holiday and the pastry I chose quite nicely. Her skirt ended up being quite voluminous, so the coat has trouble fitting over it. So I do wish I had made the bottom of the coat larger as well, or even slightly more rounded instead of a rectangular piece that's gathered at the waist. They do fit over each other, but it's a tight squeeze. I was surprised how much I enjoyed working with the browns, creams and pinks of this doll, because my least favorite colors are brown and pink. I don't hate brown and pink, it's just that they don't usually excite me. I also really liked her makeup. For some reason, I usually go for really subtle makeup, but I need to do more bold makeup, it's so fun. I love the tiny hearts scattered here and there as a hint to Valentine's Day. In Finland, Valentine's Day is actually called Ystävänpäivä, which translates to Friends Day. So we celebrate friends on Valentine's Day instead of lovers. So happy Valentine's Day to everyone! Don't forget to watch all of the other amazing videos in this collab. Links will be in the subscription box below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't yet done that, like this video and leave a comment. I would love to know what you think of my winter Lolita girl. Until next time, bye! I added some cute bottom details to the boots and